Hello everybody and welcome to GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max broadcast number 112. Welcome all. I just want to do a quick sound check to make sure that everyone can hear me. And we may do another sound check later on because I'm going to run a video. And I don't know whether that video audio will actually show up. I'll just hum along to it if it doesn't. So looking for a chat. We've got live chatting on the window. You can't see it. JBirdMax, thank you very much. You can hear me, or at least I hope at least one person can hear me. That's great. So this is a live broadcast. It's split up nicely into a couple of sections. The first part is demo time, so I get to show off some stuff if I've got anything to show. And in the second half, it's a Q&A where you can ask your questions and I will answer them. Now, I won't bother answering right away. I'll wait until the Q&A. However, there are teammates on standby who are happy to answer the questions if they can. Questions that can't be answered then, they will be copied and pasted into the Q&A. So the first person to ask a question potentially gets an answer. So that's how the format will work. And the demo section itself is split into two parts. You've got the GameGuru Classic and then GameGuru Max. Oh, I forgot to mention that if you do ask a question, stick a question mark at the end. It's a lot easier to scroll quickly through the live chat, find the questions quickly, so we can get more answers squeezed into what I'm predicting will be around a 30-minute broadcast. So without further ado, let's get into Classic, and I've got a couple of things to show you today. The first one is a video. Now, remember last broadcast? A little sneak peek at something called CineGuru for GameGuru Classic that's coming out relatively soon. Well, let me run this video. It was given to me by Tanner Productions.
Ah, there you are. I'm glad you made it. Let me show you something amazing. It's a new DLC pack for GameGuru Classic called CineGuru. CineGuru gives you the tools to create your own in-game cinematics and scripted sequences for GameGuru games. Have cameras that pan, zoom, dolly, track moving objects, and shake on command. Turn characters into actors that can walk, talk, teleport, and switch back to being enemies. Trigger sounds, credits, sprites, and image sequences whenever you need them. All of these functions and more are explained in detail in the included manual, as well as a series of comprehensive video tutorials. Bring your games to life with CineGuru, available now.
Okay, I could not have said it better myself. So thank you very much, Scott at Tanner Productions. And imminent, that's the word I'm going to use. Imminent arrival of that DLC for GameGuru Classic. We're within days of pressing the button, so you can get access to it. And I'm sure you can find more information through the social channels on if you want to learn a bit more before you decide to take the plunge. But it's been requested for years, this idea of having cinematics and cutscenes in your GameGuru Classic games. Well, this is the DLC which lets you do that. It was created, again, third-party development, nothing to do with the core team. But we have kept an eye on it for a while. Very cool project, so please do check that out. In other news on GameGuru Classic is an update to GameGuru Classic. And you don't have to wait 3 months for it. It's probably imminent. Again, nothing to do with the core GameGuru Classic team. This is contributed from the community and specifically from Cybernescence. And I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but I think it is probably imminent. And it will be an update to GameGuru Classic. What is it? Well, there's a couple of things, but the cool one is something called parallax occlusion mapping. And again, yes, Lee's being lazy. Another video. Much better than trying to understand what I'm talking about. This is a little demonstration. I've just spooled it forward a little bit. This is what parallax occlusion mapping is. And you get the idea. I was getting mesmerized. I'd watch it to the end of the video. But you get the idea. In all 4 examples, these are flat polygons. These are just flat as you can get. But parallax occlusion mapping will take a texture's data, including its height data, and then pretend that that flat surface is extremely geometrically dense. It doesn't work under all conditions, but there's a lot of conditions where this is an extremely powerful technique to create that kind of detail. And it's imminent for GameGuru Classic Update, in addition to a few more things. And just to give you some ideas, don't think you can just switch it on for everything. It is a performance hog if you try and use it everywhere. But if you can use it in select places, especially those places like cobbled floors and brick walls, it can have a great effect on your final visual. Speaking of effects on final visuals, I want to show you this quickly. It's a standalone executable created in GameGuru Classic and takes advantage of an early test version of the parallax occlusion mapping system. But that might not be the first thing that strikes you. This is an extremely gorgeous looking, it's only a tech demo really, but probably a start of something amazing. As you've seen, it's written by the infamous DK. This is GameGuru Classic, people. I know, looks better than Max. But a lot of work has gone into this. This is probably a passion project. And it's not as obvious when you compare it to, say, a brick wall or a cobbles, but those root systems down there, they're actually using parallax occlusion mapping. This is a big map. I've been wandering around it. I'm sorry if it's a bit stuttery. That's just the speed of the broadcast and resolution. This demo is running at quite a high res, and there is a lot of detail. When you get a lot of detail, a lot of pixels swimming, yeah, it will start to try and hog your... I'm going to do a run, just get through. I think I saw a building somewhere. But I don't want to spend too much time running around this forest. You are going to probably get to play it down the road when this hits some kind of public demo that you can play around with. There is a building around here, which looks really awesome. But what I really wanted to show you is just, yeah, the sky, the trees, the floor, the inclusion of the latest effects from GameGuru Classic. And if you have the art skills and the patience and the time and the craft, you can create scenes like this. Just because it's GameGuru Classic will not stop you creating cool looking things. There it is. There's the building off in the distance. But as I say, I can get a bit mesmerised and start running around for 20 minutes, look up, and the broadcast is over before we've even gone to questions. So there's an abandoned building. You can go inside, go up the stairs, look on the upstairs windows. Some other wonderful things. Let's just finish with a nice hero shot and some birds up there as well. I'm not going to shoot them. I'm not going to shoot the birds. It's a really, really nice demo, and I'm hoping that you get to see it soon. So that's GameGuru Classic. So check out the news on GameGuru Classic in the weeks and months to come. Actually, the weeks to come, sorry. Yeah, you're not going to be waiting months for this update. We just need to get it in the repo, tested, and then uploaded as an official update with probably a little set of instructions on how to activate the parallax occlusion mapping on a select number of your surfaces. Not all your entire game, just on choice surfaces. So that's GameGuru Classic. Without further ado, let's dive into Max and see what's going on there. Professional transition. So this is GameGuru Max demos time. What do I have to show you? Oh, another thing, you know, the stutteriness you might have seen isn't just the speed of the streaming. I've just realised I was running GameGuru Max DX12 version in the background. Not sure exactly what happens when you run DX11 alongside DX12. I think there might be some fighting going on with the GPU. Just to let you know that, yeah, in addition to the streaming and running other graphics tasks, when you run it natively on your computer, you'll have a very smooth experience for that demo. So what I want to talk about with GameGuru Max, very exciting stuff, actually. What you see now is DirectX 12, DirectX 12_1, actually. And we're doing some private tests. This is the test version. We're still ironing stuff out, but if you want to feel brave and you feel a bit dangerous, go and check out the Steam EXP build. That's now live with this DX12 test version. And let me know, your mileage may vary. Anyone who's got the earliest kind of DX12 card, which is the DX12_0, won't be able to run it. You'll get a nice friendly error message. I'm not saying that's the final state of affairs. It is actually below min spec, that particular version of DX12, but I want to find out what the benefits of DX12_1, and if they aren't that great, I might push it back to _0, so literally anyone who's got DX12 written on their GPU would be able to run GameGuru Max. But yeah, we'll see how prevalent _0 is, because it means we get better features if we can stick to _1. Sorry for all the technical gobbledygook, but we're in testing mode and that's what happens. But the good news is all of the bits and pieces now work again, but under DirectX 12. So we're just testing it, then we'll put it up, latest version on the repo, which is now public. And then we'll go to some sort of series of public previews and then a final public release when we know it's super solid and it's not going to mess up your game projects. But that isn't what I want to show you. What you're looking at here, well, obviously the canyon. Anyone who's been using the procedural terrain system and the biomes, that's old visuals. You've seen that before. But those scattering of objects and characters down there, that's the bit that I want to show you. Because what I want to show you is 10, count them, 10 new behaviours. But before any of that, I want to introduce a new thing that we've done. If I go into the behaviours library, we've introduced some new categories. It was getting obvious that the objects folder, the objects category, was getting very, very, very full. And you'd start to get lost in the, 60, 50 behaviours that were just being put there. Everything that wasn't to do with character driving or a game element effect ended up in an objects folder. So now we've introduced some new folders and we'll populate these as we move forward, making things a bit more elegant. Obviously we've had the animals folder for some time. These will obviously increase as more animals grace our biomes. This is a new folder, effects. So think of effects as not connected to characters or particularly to objects. It's things like camera shaking and what happens to the audio, what's happening, and some material control, like making objects glow, but not doing anything, say, of a gameplay logical thing. It's more of an extra. Horror, that's been around before, but we've added a new one called Phantom. You'll see that demonstrated when I run this. So think of ghosts that fade in, move towards you with some spooky music, and then fades out, adding to the story narrative. So you've got your horror folder, which has been added to. Objects you already know about. That's the objects, the default. And there may be one or two more in there, but I want to skip that because I want to introduce the new ones. People, of course, that's been around for a while. Anything to do with controlling characters, you'll find behaviours for that. First of the big ones, puzzle. A lot of the object ones have been moved to the puzzle category, but don't worry if you've been using the old locations. The engine, the next update that we put out, if you actually are depending on a behavior that's since been moved, the engine cleverly looks at the new location. It knows where you think it is, but now it's moved. It actually looks in two locations and it finds it again, and you can carry on using your level. But as you create new game projects and new levels, you'll be using the new locations for the behaviors. What is puzzle? Puzzle is all of the objects and obstacles in your game level that isn't necessarily related to the player, to the first person experience. It's stuff that hurts or attacks the player at some point. So an arrow trap, climbing up things, collapsing floors. Also puzzles is about winning the game, or when do you win the game. Collect count is a system where you can collect X number of things before you complete the game. I'll scroll down to the bottom. We've added to that. Kill so many enemies to win the game level. Collect a specific object to win the level. Flick a switch to win the level. So those are all new ones. And you see some old familiars like the Crusher. You've also got things like throwing up images and messages, which are all part of supplying information to solve puzzles. Mouse control's a cool one. I'll introduce that a little bit later. Rock falls, platforms like lifts, and spike traps. You've seen these before, and of course the task duo, that's a really powerful one. trapdoor, similar to a floor collapse. And the final category is RPG. What is RPG? Role-playing game. This is the one where you find behaviours that will affect the player. It's all part of the player's ability to survive the level you've created and to make the player stronger. Armour is the only one that right now, in my little demo, I can't demonstrate because we want to do that properly. What I mean by that is we're not going to hack in a lot of arbitrary fields so you can have your player armor, but it's been hard-coded. What we're going to do is create a system that's very generic and user customizable. So you get to decide what armor is, or attributes like stamina and mana and all that kind of stuff. And armor is just one of those things. So it's a placeholder while we work on this user-defined, more generic system. Binoculars, drink from water. You've seen these before. Eat is a new one. I'll demonstrate that, but when you see the juniper bush, you'll know you're looking at the eat behavior. Health bar throws up health bars for characters. That's been put in RPG because you often see it in RPG. Equally, it could be put into the player section, but there's another reason why it's staying in here for the moment. We've moved key, but don't worry if you're relying on the key script from the old location. It will handle that in the latest version of the engine. Another cool one, NPC drop. So when you kill a particular character, they can drop something. That's pretty cool. And we've also got, I think the rest you've seen before. So those are the 10. But all that's very good, Lee, but show us. All right, I'll show you. Let's run the level and I'll run through this little demo. Hopefully the sound effects aren't too loud. I think the sound level's looking good, so let's do this. Okay, what am I showing off? Well, obviously seen glow before. I'll just put that in there because I didn't like the glow. Right, so the first one I've triggered is this. It's the phantasm, you know, the phantom, which fades in, moves, and then fades out. Lots of different controls you can do. And the first one is this. Look at the screen. You've got the, if I go clear, E to end the level. That was the behaviour for if you can flick a switch to complete the level, that's it. But remember I was talking about mouse control? Look at that little icon in the middle. See a little X if I move off? There's no X, I move on, there is. What that mouse control is, it's a global override. It allows you to click the left mouse button or right mouse button, or both, or either, in order to force interactions in scripts that up to now only relied on key presses. This script only detects the E key, but the mouse control supplants it. So now instead of pressing E, I can just click the left mouse button. There you go. And so by using that system, you don't have to change all the scripts that use key presses. You can actually use a mouse control. Now, where is the mouse control? Just for anyone who doesn't know, if you want to run a script that runs all the time and globally, what you do, you pick an innocuous object, you set it to is immobile, you set it to always active, and then you give it that script so it's always running in the game. It's a bit of a hack. It's not too ugly, but it is technically a hack. Down the road, what we're going to have is a series of behaviours that will always run within your game level, so you don't have to attach them to arbitrary dynamic objects in the level. But I just want to know, that's what those two barrels are about. They're running global scripts. Some of that I've shown you before in the behaviour library. So that's one way. You can flick a switch to end the level. Also, you can kill all the enemies in the level to win the game. There's 3 zombies I've dropped down here, so I'm going to pick up this spear. Or I could have pressed the left mouse button to collect it, because the mouse control up there is a global effect. This is the health bar. You can see that little red dot and the green. It only shows 1 at the moment. I think it'd be great if you could have health bars for everyone. So let's see what happens. If I just, kill him. I've given him really weak health, but the one in green, I've given him like a little bit more health. Also, I've attached the NPC item drop to him. So if I get rid of him, see that flying off into the distance? That's the item that was spawned at the moment of his dying, and I switched the gravity off so it flies off into the distance, and then all targets eliminated, and you see the game completed at the bottom. That obviously, if this was running in standalone, would fade this level out and move you on to level 2. or whatever the level you was connected to. But I don't want to really be looking at all targets eliminated all the time, so I'm now going to start the game again, and I'm kind of going to skip these guys because I've seen that. There's the ghosty skull thing again. And we're going to carry on down the path. And this is another way you can finish a game level, which is to collect an object of import. So you go up to this massive golden talisman, press E to pick up. Or if you notice the little mouse control thing, I can just click left and that collects it. And as you can see, it says X to use. That lets you complete the game level whenever you choose. Finally, the juniper bush. Of course they bring forth juniper berries. They're juniper bushes, what do you expect? Monty Python. So, I'm going to lose some health by deliberately drowning myself. I'll choke a little bit. Yeah, I'll do. Okay, so this is from the RPG, role-playing game set of behaviours, which when you get up to it, you'll actually press E to eat juniper berries, so I can also press the left mouse button. Now I'm up to 400 health, 425 health, 450 health. Now watch what happens when I press it fourth time. 475. So you can set different properties, but as you see, you've eaten all the juniper berries. And obviously we're going to increase the number of options you can have. But the general idea is you can go around foraging for ingredients, eating things, etc, etc. All the sorts of stuff you'd expect from an RPG, a role-playing game experience. So those are the 10, or rather the 9 behaviours that are currently running. Going to do a little bit more work on the armour. So that one gives you, well, basically what armour is. Someone's shooting you or hitting you, or you're supposedly getting damaged. It will take that damage out of your armour or your shield before you actually subject yourself to actual health damage. So that's the difference between health and armour / shields. So that's GameGuru Max demo. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to maybe put a build out on Friday with the armour in, but there's going to be another series of updates into the EXP build on Steam. So if you want to play with a lot of this, just grab it, maybe check it out at the end of today. Certainly it will be there for Friday, and let us know what you think, and if there's any issues with any of these behaviours that we need to work on. So without further ado, let's go to the live chat and see if you've got any questions. I have a live chat. I'm looking at the bottom of it. Zach has preempted me. He's posting now the questions that were asked right at the start but could not get an answer and was waiting on me. Looking at the clock. Looking at the clock, we're 25 minutes in. That technically means we've only got 5 minutes for answers. That's not fair, is it, people? Okay, let's probably extend this broadcast a little bit beyond the 30. Any news about multiplayer, Lee? No news yet on multiplayer. We're going to call version 1 when we've got RPG, puzzle, VR, performance and stability. And a lot of reliability all wrapped into a lovely little bubble. And we're going to call it version 1. Multiplayer is a big bite. There's a lot of stuff to do in multiplayer. We can't do a half-baked multiplayer. We did that with GameGuru Classic. Nobody used it. Or at least, 0.001% of people used it. Because it wasn't what a modern multiplayer experience should be. So we can't just rush something out quickly. We have technology for it. We're okay on the tech side. But what we want to do is design out a fully fledged multiplayer offering. And because we've got plenty of work cut out just to do the single player, that's where we're placing our focus. So unfortunately, there isn't any news and there's no ETA on the multiplayer part. But we are probably going to do some multiplayer work on GameGuru Classic side. So if you are super eager for multiplayer and not interested in single player, check out GameGuru Classic, because we already have multiplayer that kind of sort of works under most situations, but there's still some situations it doesn't work well, and those are the things that I'm talking about that we'll introduce in a future update to GameGuru Classic. Another question, can we get a quick demonstration of how to assign an item to a task? Pick up an item A and use it to activate item B. Yeah, refer to, was it last week's broadcast or the week before? It might have been the week before. But look at the, in fact, shut up Lee, just demonstrate it. Do you hear what the guy asks? Or gal. Don't need that. This was the level, if it still loads in. Quick demonstration. I think it was 2 broadcasts ago. It's called the task behavior. You've got this switch. You'd think it was a switch behavior. It's not. It's task object. Now I've moved it since, and it would run. I'm just going to show you where you'd find it now. It's in here. It looks like this little box. That's your task object. That's the thing you're going to switch. But don't think of it as a switch. Think of it like a key. No, think of it like an engine, right? An engine that has no petrol in it. Now you actually want some petrol that you find elsewhere in your game. In this case, it's just a massive key. I kept things really simple for me. And that is the task tool. So you can see how it works. You need a tool to make this object thing do its thing. It could be fuel in this case. So the idea is you collect the tool, and you obviously have to give it a proper name. Called it massive key. Set some properties. You've got to do the named tool if you want to use names. So select this name tool and you put it in there. And then if you look at this one, which is the engine block, if you can imagine that, and then you'll do named tool, and then you make sure that you're specifying all of the properties necessary, and then away you go. And then all you do is collect this, go to here. This object, once collected, changes the prompt on this task object, and when you press the E key, or if you use the mouse control, just click the click, then because you've got that, it activates that. And of course, if you're in visual editing mode, so you kind of, I don't know, it could be anything, just activate that. You could actually then, once you've activated that, connect it to that, and it does something. In fact, if you notice, currently in this old level, when you activated that, this skull would suddenly appear and fall out of the top part. That's how it currently works, but you get the idea. You can use the visual logic connection system to take it further. Once you've put fuel in the engine, maybe you trigger some nice engine sound effect, and maybe the door unlocks so you can drive off, etc. So that's generally how it works. There's quite a lot of parameters in both those things. The task object and task tool is pretty powerful. So just do some trial and error. Check it out, see what you think. I think you'll like it. And if you think there's something missing, let us know and we'll add it over time. Okay, third question. Any updates on the guide to import custom characters pieces? Yeah, let's just quickly check the guide. Where are we for guides? Builds. Here we go. These are the guides we've got. We've got a booster pack guide, characters guide, objects guide, and weapons guide. Okay, so it would probably be found in characters, but as you see, there is no doc file at the moment. So yeah, I don't think we've got a guide for it yet. We are going to be working on it at some point, but there's other things we're still working on, like the new weapon system. We've got to finish a little bit more on some importing work. But I think once those are done, there will be a big screaming shout for adding your own body parts, heads, bodies, legs, headgear. There's also some early DLC design work underway where we're going to need to be able to expand areas like making it super easy to bring in arbitrary models and attach them to characters so that characters can gain identity. Like a character's a character's a character, but you put a crown on it, suddenly it's a king. You know, with very little effort in terms of getting the model ready and importing it and attaching it to the character creator. So those are the sorts of early thoughts that we're having, and that would necessitate the creation of a character creator parts guide. So yeah, it's imminent, but I can't tell you exactly when that's going to happen. Okay, another question. This was snuck in by Galen. Does this mean we can now make puzzles and RPG games? No. Good question, actually. It's the start. It's very much the start of our journey into both RPG and puzzle. And the more we started looking at RPG and puzzle, they're going to be done at the same time. Because the sort of, you know, you've already seen it. You've got lifts, and then moving platforms, and then things you can eat like the juniper berries. You know, one's in the puzzle section and one's in the RPG section. And there's always going to be crossover between shooter, RPG and puzzle, so why not the last two pieces emerge at the same time? The bit that's missing is the screen editor. Now, whilst we're in demonstrating stuff on screen mode, and I do remember in the last week's broadcast people were saying, well, you can spend more than 30 minutes if you want to. Well, I am going to, and I'll show you a good screen, which could be this one. This is the screen editor at the moment. It's pretty useful. You can change a lot of the things. You can move stuff around, change the colours, the text, add, change images. What you can't do is add anything. You Can't add anything to this. All you do is really modify what we've decided you're going to have for this particular screen. The big add for the RPG specifically is that you can add content. You can add, you know, an inventory slot. You can add a player progress or your mana strength or your skill trees, and add, and then connecting all of that to the logic of your games, not just to game levels, but the whole game project, your entire journey through however many levels you want to create for your game. When you start to see that in future broadcasts, that is when you're going to be able to have a really good time creating your RPG games. That's, at least in my mind, that's when it's sort of the, what do you call it, the tipping point. And then you'll start to see a lot of people create a lot of different variations on the RPG theme, because it has quite a wide scope. The reason we've started with behaviours is it's kind of inevitable that at some point you're going to want functionality for lots and lots of different things. Some will be needed for shooters, some will only be needed for RPG and puzzle, etc. And I think a bigger factor is that poor old Lee isn't the one creating the vast majority of these, the last, say, 40 behaviours. It's Necrim59. He's been pouring all these lovely behaviours into the community, and who are we to stop him? So, but the idea was, as they were pouring in, we realised we're going to need to create categories for these. Some are clearly RPG, some are clearly puzzles, some are a bit ambiguous. But let's start now before you start creating large levels, depending on behaviours in specific places. So yeah, you've seen the start of it, but it's certainly not at that tipping point yet. But we will keep you informed, obviously through the socials, but mainly through these weekly broadcasts. Okay, my scroll window's just rocketed off, so I'm going to have to scroll back up to find out where the last question was, which was there. And the next one, this is from Zach from before. How far with VR? The good news is all the tech's kind of done. We have full support for OpenXR. What we haven't really done is done exhaustive testing with DX12 and OpenXR and running in VR with all our headsets, etc. So in a way, we're kind of okay on the tech side, but what we're really not started properly yet is actual VR testing and playing and adding, and not very much of the VR front end. What happens with controllers, how does teleport and move work, stuff like that. So I think we're about halfway through, but you won't really see much probably for another 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks when we start going through the testing, and I might have something to share and show. Don't know, I'm going to demonstrate a VR experience, but we'll have a go. We'll see how far we get on that one. But it is imminent. It's definitely imminent. We just want to get DX12 out the way and stable. Question from Just the Keepo. Will there be an inventory system in some point? Yes, that's one of the core features of RPG. You saw that screen editor? One of the first things that you're going to be able to edit is how your inventory screen looks. Then you might want a player customization screen where you get to set up your avatar at the start of your RPG game. Then a skill progression tree, you know, do you want to invest in learning arrow skills, or do you want to invest in fireball skills? That could be another screen. A screen which shows a map of your fake world and how you can navigate around the map. All of these are going to need their own in-game screens, and we're not going to hack them in. We're going to let you create your own screens. We'll give you templates, and yeah, one of the big ones will be an inventory system. So it's not just a fixed one inventory system fits all. We'll give you a really boring looking template, and then you get to bring in your own art, your own sounds, your own layout, your own functionality even for that screen, and so you get your own inventory experience for your game idea. Okay, next question is lost. Scrolled again. Okay, here is a question, and I'm sorry I'm out of turn. I may very well be out of turn. Where did that question go? I really do. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry about that. I've lost my thread, but this is a question mark from Requiem for Ravenholm. Question about the parallax occlusion mapping. Will we get textures to test it out in the update? I think I do have one cobble texture. The video that you saw, that wasn't mine. I don't own those textures. They were example textures. Don't know where they came from, but I do have a seamless cobble texture that's really nice, relatively high res, and it has a height map to it as well. So yeah, I think it makes sense that if I'm releasing a GameGuru Classic update, you're going to at least be able to pick an object and drop it in and see it right away without having to faff about. So I would say yes on that. Otherwise, I would be able to demonstrate that it's even in the GameGuru Classic update. So hopefully, don't worry. Okay, looking for the next question, and this is from another one from Gallon. Will survival games be a possibility in the near future? Well, if you mix together the sort of the RPG stuff, the mechanics like eating, you know, it's not a million miles away from finding a juniper bus that eat 4 times it disappears to a rock that can give 2,000 little gold pieces, or a tree that will give 50 items of woodbark. And then, of course, everyone who knows RPGs knows that at some point you want to be able to craft and take 3 elements and turn it into 1 better element, and then take that element and sell it in a shop, or buy that element if you can't craft it right there and then, and have an economy which drives all of that, which you get to control, because as I said, we're not hard-coding any of this. This will be user-defined. You get to create your own economies. And yeah, I think survival games will come out of those customizable mechanisms. Looking at the clock again, we're 40 minutes in. I am conscious that we shouldn't be making 1-hour YouTube videos, but I feel it's fair because there's quite a lot of questions and I'd like to get through just a few more, if that's all right with everyone. Feel free to hang up. Okay, what's the next question? Yeah, we've done that one. We've done that one. Looking for the next question mark, and that's from Fearless Wee. Is a fully fledged inventory system planned for RPG logic? For example, instead of instant eating those berries, the player could keep them for later selling them to a trader. See previous answer, an absolute core feature of RPG. It wouldn't be much of an RPG if you couldn't collect things and trade and craft with them further on down the game. Unlike shooters where it's bang, 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 you're dead, start again, RPGs, you could actually start a new game, be playing it 4 weeks later with a massively souped up player with all the armour and strengths and skills and inventories and weapons, etc. That's the whole point of an RPG experience, and require a lot of logic, a lot of stuff that still needs to be done, but that's the aim. Shooters, RPG and puzzle style games, with or without VR. Okay, next question is a lot shorter, and this from Morebot Gaming. Are there plans for buoyancy/boat behaviour? No plans. We do plan to update the physics engine to make sure that we're not missing a trick in terms of performance. And we do have basic buoyancy, but it's a bit of a fake buoyancy. I do know what you mean, though. You want to be able to, say, get a pallet, throw it in the water, and it behaves like a pallet in the correct material. But that's currently not in the engine, and there's no plans to do it. But I think as we upgrade the physics, that's something that will pop along and say, you know what, now is the time. But there isn't currently a plan to do it. As I say, we've got quite a big list of things that need to happen before we get to a version 1. Here's a question from Tam51. Would it be possible to have a plant that you eat which would take health off you? Great little feature. Yeah, currently the eat only adds health because our value that was specified was 0 to whatever you want. If we did a negative number, we wouldn't really have to add a new behaviour. It would be eat, and then you set negative health, and then it subtracts the health. So you wouldn't be eating a second one of those berries. But that's really just the tipping point. I mean, can you imagine having all kinds of interconnected rules that you've set up where you can eat it if you're like infused with this particular skill, but if you haven't got that skill, it takes life from you instead of add it. So lots of really cool ideas that will happen when we start working full on the RPG genre. Okay, now I am getting a bit worried. We've hit the 42-minute mark. So let's pick 2 questions from someone who hasn't asked a question before. And I apologise in advance for those who want their question answered, but they've already asked one. So it looks like the next person who hasn't got an answer yet, this is from Raphael. Hello. Will there be more advanced graphics options to choose from in a standalone game instead of simply low, medium, high than we currently have? Yes, eventually. I know what you mean though. Low, medium and high is a very arbitrary set of settings that we the developers have forced on you. In actual fact, underneath those 3 settings, there's a lot of stuff that we switch around. resolutions of shadows, how big the screen is, how many times we update certain things, the resolutions of all the off-screen surfaces you never see. There's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously all modern games give you access to that granularity. They still give you low, medium and high, and ultra, extra ultra, and I can't afford that graphics card, but you very quickly can drill through that and have a customized setting option. But again, it's not on the roadmap. We just want to get to a version 1 where everything doesn't break immediately on certain computers. It's super fast, and you can create 3 different genres. Once we're at that point, being able to twee the settings, and when you put out a game, you give your end users that kind of granularity. That will be inevitable, but I'm afraid it takes second fiddle to getting all of these other features in that we've promised way back when. And the last question, who gets the last question? I don't want to skip anyone and be really unfair. Now, Nada B10 didn't put a question mark in, but it looks like a question, so I'm going to treat this as the last question. Will there be a guide on how to add or replace the terrain texture? I mean the one in the texture paint library, since the import texture feature won't be added anytime soon and it's still far away. Yeah, I was just going to say that we're going to do like import custom textures for terrain painting. But you sort of headed off that standard reply. If you've been a long time watcher of broadcasts, you know that was the reply I would have given. What you want is a guide where you can go into the files themselves, swap out textures for your own textures and carry on as you saw fit. It's a good point. It's a lot quicker to write a guide than it is to add the whole custom import and management feature. And I don't want to forget that one, and I will as soon as I've finished uploading this to YouTube and setting up all the descriptions, etc. I'll probably have forgotten. So what I request is you can put that issue on the issues board and then send me a link at lee@thegamecreators.com so I can tag it up and add some more details to it, because that's not such a bad idea. I'm in the writing guides mode at the moment, so there's no reason why we can't have an extra folder about terrains and custom terrain textures. It'll be a small guide, but a useful one if you don't want to wait for all the extra front-end buttons. So please put that feature request in, send me the link, and I'll take it from there. So, another long broadcast. I apologise for those who don't want long broadcasts, and thank you for sticking around if you did want a long broadcast. There will be a couple of more betas, EXP builds on Steam throughout the week running up to Friday. They are experimental. The EXP actually makes sense as a label now because it's brand new DX12 and there's still a few things that even I don't know it's going to go smoothly. It needs more testing. So if you feel brave, go check out the EXP build to check out these behaviours. And of course, we'll continue to put updates out through EXP and then public preview in the weeks to come. As for right now, I'm pretty much done. I will be back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. BST to bring you more information about the internal workings of both GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I certainly have. And I'll speak to you all next week. So until then, goodbye.